we're very privileged today. The Quad M show actually gets to have its first interview ever. This is fantastic. I'm excited. I'm happy. Give you guys a little bit of a background on this. A couple weeks back, a friend of mine on Facebook was, I guess, holding open auditions or just an open casting request for someone to come in and do a little bit of voiceover work for a part in his independent movie. And I said, what the hell, I ain't got nothing better to do and all that. So I sent a reply. He replied back. We all back and forth. And last weekend, we went ahead and got some work done. So I got a little voiceover work. And so today, as our guest for the first ever Quad M interview, we have with us the director of 4 Months Till Fight Day. 4 Months Till Fight Day. The director, creator, writer, and pretty much everything within that movie, Marq Piocos. Marq, hey, it's good to have you here, man.
Oh, well, thank you, and thanks a lot for being a part of the project. Your audio turned out absolutely great, by the way. And,
cool. Even my little Kung Lao, not Kung Lao. Oh shit, who was the? Anyways, the big fight. Did that part still come out okay?
Actually, there was a take that you did where you didn't. You were just repeating what you needed to say, and that's the take I ended up using.
Okay.
so it ended up working beautifully. It just the referee at that point, there was just so much. The promoter of the MMA event had decided to put up the audio for the music, so I had to improvise a little bit in order to be able to get some of that sound stuff taken care of. I didn't want to have to pay the rights to have any kind of music in there.
Well, yeah, unless it's public domain, you're going to end up having to pay.
Yeah, well, I mean, speaking of which, I have 2 great songs already up for the soundtrack. One of them's by a good friend of mine, Darren Lees, who I graduated with film school for. He has a band called Stop the Children. It's part of it as well. And a gal named Shelley Rain, who graduated with me over at Capitol, has contributed also a musical track, and I'm looking for a third to end the movie. So that's coming out. So if any of your listeners has any music they want to contribute to the film, I'm absolutely privileged to be able to give them a little bit of exposure.
And I'm sure both of them will wholeheartedly.
Awesome.
So and the real cool thing here, as we get in and we talk about the movie, in seeing somebody basically taking an idea and a concept and taking it, to fruition, to where you have a finished, finalized product, and you're pretty much doing it, every step of the way, and by yourself. So I guess first off, what got you into making movies? What got you into wanting to pursue that as a career? But something I'm assuming besides, it's not just a hobby for you. This is something that you want to make.
I graduated with a film degree, and I kind of went off track for a little bit there, because as soon as I graduated, I went to LA, tried to find some jobs, couldn't find it there, so I ended up in television. I ended up doing television news for quite a while. And I got to that point which I got burnt out on television news, so I quit. I decided I'm not going to pursue any of that anymore, and decided to kind of go off on my own a little bit, and I launched a couple podcasts after that. And a couple of years ago, my brother, it was so psyched about wanting to do a movie. So me and him have been collaborating on this movie, tentatively titled River Rats, where we might change the title eventually because the script's changing so much as of right now. But what happened was we decided to do auditions this past spring, and he decided. So after doing the process and all that, was still kind of tweaking the script, and he wanted to go in a different direction with the script. And I said, well, I have so many great actresses that showed up at these auditions, and the movie that you're writing doesn't really have enough for the actresses that we did get at the auditions. And I had an idea for a movie. I said, well, listen, if we're going to do our movie, let me do my movie first. That way I get back in the director's chair, kind of, ease back in, and to kind of work any problems that I may have coming back into that director's chair and producer chair, and then that way when I go into our second film, which will tentatively start filming hopefully within the next couple weeks, that I would have that experience behind me. So that's how kind of the project came about in terms of me wanting to make a movie. The premise behind the story is a totally other story, but.
Okay. Well, and we're definitely going to get into that too. So basically, you're kind of stealing talent from your brother.
Not really. I mean, there's going to be a lot of crossover talent from this movie to the next one. Although my lead was going to be in this our next project, but she ended up moving out of state, so she's not going to be able to be a part of it. But there'll be some crossover. I definitely see some of our actors from 4 Months Until Fight Day making the transition over into that as well. So we'll see what happens.
Oh yeah, well, I mean, even when you go into the big leagues like Hollywood, it's all in who you know, and if you have the a central group of people that you work with. I mean, you look at Kevin Smith; he uses the same people all the time because they're people that he knows through
Yeah, I mean, right now, the dream for me, if I had the money, if this ends up being successful, if this movie and the next movie ends up becoming successful, I would love to be based here in Montana. There's so many great people in terms of actors I found when we were doing auditions. And they need their big break. And that's the cool thing about indie films is that you're gonna be able to get your big break. And I'm gonna press for going to festivals, etc. And also on the other end of the camera, we've got so many people that were looking for experience. And I really wanted to do it this time around in this film, but I wasn't able to because. For the simple fact that my old professor didn't get my email until after the production was over.
Right.
But there's so many great people at Montana State University that would love to get that experience under their belt. It would be nice to have some interns or at least some part-time work. And get them some experience under their belt before they decide maybe they want to head to Los Angeles to pursue being a camera person or a sound person, or etc.
Like on the production level, as far as
yes.
So with that in mind, now the movie itself is centered around the MMA world, and I noticed just as we hooked up on Facebook and checking stuff out that you're heavily involved in MMA coverage and kind of being around the scene there. What got you into that?
The story goes is that I have an entertainment podcast, and it's going to be celebrating its 8th anniversary next month. And I was able to interview in my first ever personal interview with a female fighter was Caitlin Young.
Okay.
And Caitlin Young was fighting Gina Carano that weekend. So I've always been a supporter of female fighting, and so I ended up hooking up with a friend of mine, and we ended up doing a podcast called Sports Geeks. We ended up starting to interview female fighters from there, and then we ended up breaking up the podcast, and I ended up starting Wombat Sports. I was covering for Fighter Girls at the time as well, and then I decided to quit Fighter Girls because I didn't like the direction they were going. So Wombat Sports became a big, huge thing. But it's been a fun ride. It's been fun to be able to watch the sport grow. I mean, back in the day, you barely had maybe 10 fights a month, even less than that total. And now, this today, we have roughly 26 fights going on in the pro level and at least another 10 in the amateur level. So that's just on this day. So it's a fun ride, and it was really great to meet a lot of these people and all this as well. The journey's been absolutely fun. But it was just by happenstance somewhat. And I can also say that I was probably one of the first people ever to ask Dana White if they're ever going to have female fighters in the UFC. And at that point, he didn't say outright no. He actually said they don't have the numbers yet. So
did he say if we can ever find someone to beat Ronda Rousey, maybe?
Well, this is way before Ronda. This was
okay.
This was 2006. Yeah, this was 2006 when I asked him. So yeah, a long time ago.
Now, and as a little bit of a side, I'm not as well versed in the current MMA world. I know some fighters, and I know some fighters of the past, and I know where my preference in the MMA, UFC type stuff goes, and it goes back to like UFC's 1 till about maybe 5 or 6, where it was like the 8-man tournament, where it was this guy has a specific style, this guy has a specific style. can a jiu-jitsu guy beat the Brazilian Royce Gracie Thai fighting, or can the wrestler beat the boxer, that type of thing. Do you think that the sport is better now as it is, where it is mixed martial, or do you think that maybe someone should try to get the old school, get that old school tournament back?
You can't put the genie back in the bottle.
Right.
Because that's what the sport is now. You'll come in with one discipline, but you're going to have to transition over. And a lot of the most successful ones know how to do both well. I mean, that's why Ronda's doing so well right now. I mean, she's done so much with her grappling skills, but she ended up proving that she can also strike as well. So it's interesting to say the least in terms of where the sport is going now. I think that the women are a fresh kind of start to that, because I think that they're a lot more aggressive and are more likely to look for the kind of the finish and the win. And they're also more than likely, if they're down by 2 rounds, they're going to try to at least win in the third and not give up. And then we've seen that a lot more with the male side of things. And I think it's just my bias, but that's what I'm thinking. But
well, sure.
No,
sure.
I have to agree with you. Every fight I've seen between women has been knockdown, drag out, vicious fight.
No, hold on. Are we talking UFC fights, or are we talking back in the old days at Hill and a High out in the park?
Yes.
I had said this. I had said something. I had an interview on my Wombat Sports podcast about with a guy who is a doctor of sociology in terms of sports, and he has written a book about female fighting, and it was a really great interview. It was a 1-hour interview, so I highly recommend anybody listen to it. But I said that don't ever say a woman can't do something because she'll prove you wrong, and that's exactly how a lot of these female fighters have that attitude going in. Just if I'm going to prove you wrong, and they're going to do about it. And just today, I was watching BAMA, which is a organization over in the UK. There's a gal named Sinead Kavanagh, who is a teammate of Conor McGregor. If you don't know who Conor McGregor is, he's like one of the best fighters out there at the moment. He's the most popular fighter at the moment.
She already sounds like an angry, drunken Irish woman. That that right there just says don't
mess
with her.
Yeah, considering the tough right hand she got, she won in 17 seconds today, and I saw her fight, her last amateur fight in Las Vegas, and yeah, she knocked the girl out cold, and I had a double take, and I was there in Vegas to watch it, and yeah, this gal is like a beast. Once she gets her ground game down, it'll be interesting to see. It'll be interesting to see. She might be the gal that might be Ronda Rousey, but we'll never see.
But she's more of a striker at this.
She's
point.
more of a striker, yeah, and that's the thing. She has to kind of get her ground game up to snuff, and she's going to take a while. If she ends up landing 6, 7, 8 wins, we might see her in the UFC eventually. But.
Very cool. So now segueing that into the movie. 4 months until fight day. Tell us about it. What's the main premise?
There's this. I really came into this movie to wanting a different premise than what we saw in like the Rocky-esque kind of films. We have the three major plot lines we see in every single fight film. Either it's a revenge film, either it's I have to fight because I have to pay the money, or it's a comeback film. Somebody was a fighter, they quit and they had to come back. This movie is a lot different than I wanted to go take a different approach to it, and it's about this gal named Allison who is a really shy and timid person, but she's a very hard worker. She's very caring about her mother, who's a recovering alcoholic, and she's kind of been the breadwinner of the family. She ends up getting a letter and decides after reading this letter that she wants to start fighting. So she ends up, starting to do some running. She ends up meeting a gal named Becca, and she ends up, start training by herself. She ends up watching YouTube videos and watching videos of her father, who was a boxer, and starts training off of those videos, and then she makes her way into the MMA world, and then she has some success, some less success, and I won't give away the ending, but it's a really innovative film. It's something that's a lot different than what you're going to see in your average fight film.
Yeah, no, and as you know, when we were discussing that, you know, when I was doing the VO work for you, and I really do, you know, like where you're going with that movie. It's definitely got a different take.
Yeah,
and a
exactly.
different
You know, I mean, every single other fight film also, everything's professional. It's a professional fight, and really, it's just coming from the amateur standpoint, and having covered the amateurs for so long, you know, it kind of does generate that thing about it. And it's like I said, in the amateurs, it's not about the monies. It's about getting that experience, so you get to become a professional. Then you can start making money. Mm-hmm. But I wanted to take it from a very pure standpoint versus what we see in Hollywood, and I'm hoping that a lot more films take that direction. The only movie I can think of that kind of takes it from that direction is a movie called Girl Fight, which had Michelle Rodriguez in it. Mm-hmm. That was her breakout role, and it was a really great film. And again, it came from an amateur kind of standpoint as well. So, you know, I just said I wanted to take it from a different kind of standpoint than what we've been seeing, and hopefully this will spark a little bit of that in terms of where females are, and it's also more generated towards the female market. It's a lot of these male-oriented fight films. You know, if they have females in it, it's going to be a little bit different. So, this is the first, I think, one of the first ever female-driven fight films.
Okay. Well, and let's go ahead and talk about the talent. Who do you have in the film?
All these people are local talents, and it was really great. You know, one of them's Kate Cummins, absolutely great actress, very expressive actress. Her acting was very, very solid through it, and she was a trooper all the way straight through it. She did an absolute great job, and I mean, I saw a little spark of this brilliance in her when I saw her at auditions. She came into the auditions. I don't know if you've ever seen the movie Mallrats.
I've not only seen it but lived it.
You know, the opening scene where T.S. and his
Brody.
girlfriend.
Shannon Doherty.
Not Shannon Doherty. No. I'm talking about T.S. and I'm talking about.
Oh yeah, the game show.
Gal. Yeah.
His daughter. Yeah.
Exactly. We use that as I used that as a test script for a screen test script for the talent. They and Kate took it, and with the guy who's auditioning, and I can't remember the name off the top of his head, but we ended up casting him over in River Rats. But they ended up taking that script and they ended up doing it in a southern accent. And it worked beautifully.
Mall riots.
Yeah, it worked absolutely beautifully, and that's kind of what sold me on Kate. You know, to be able to do that as well. Shelby Decker is a really great actress as well. She's, she has sparks of inspiration and talent and all that as well. She has a really great sense of humor. So, I'm really looking forward to her as well. And Lori Glasgow, who's an actress out in Helena. She plays the mom in the movie. The story goes is that I wanted to cast a mom, and I needed an older actress, and we only had two that came up to auditions. One was fairly older than I wanted, and she has stage experience, and the other one was
my daughter up there fighting.
Yeah. Don't get me wrong. That guy was talented, but then Lori, who didn't have any acting experience. But here's the funny thing is that Lori came in and said, "Oh, I just want to be an extra in the background." When she auditioned, I said, "No, I still want you to read." And I saw a glimmer of something in her that I wanted to kind of express and all that as well. So I decided to go ahead and do a second audition with Lori and this other gal, and Lori was okay. She needed to project a little bit more, but just after that, I was like going, do I want to go aesthetic or do I want to go experience? And I ended up going aesthetic, and Lori actually shot it out of the park. She ended up doing the work. She did an absolute great job in there as well. The amazing thing is she could cry on cue, which was awesome. There was a very emotional scene at the end, and I'm not going to give it away, but I mean, I was nearly crying when Lori and Kate were doing this scene, and it was a very emotional scene between the two, and it's going to tear everybody's heartstrings when you see it. So we have a really talented cast, and not to mention Charmaine Tweet. And the thing is that we had an actor back out that was going to play the coach in the movie. Charmaine Tweet, who's a really well-known MMA fighter, a female MMA fighter. She fought Cyborg. Her last fight was versus Cyborg, which is a heavy task for anybody. But Charmaine wanted to be a part of this project. And when that actor dropped out, I said, I was going to have Char as a guest star. I'm not, and I decided, well, if she wants in it so badly, we'll give her a major role. So we ended up getting Charmaine in from Canada, and she did an absolute great job.
Now, the father you made mention to him, you actually had cast because he was actually a real fighter.
Yeah, well, he wasn't necessarily a real fighter. The story goes is that he's the vice president of the Dandelion Foundation up in Great Falls, and he was fighting for charity actually a couple months ago. He was training for like 4 or 5 months and had told the promoter that he wanted to fight for a charity, for his charity. And as it turned out, I was there in the audience that day, and I needed somebody to play the father. So I decided to go and ask him because he looked the part. Second of all, I really liked the idea of having a charity organization involved in the project, and that's something I might start doing more often than not. Is to have that taken care of, because we'll be doing a charity showing up in Great Falls. I think October the 15th. We're looking for a location right now, but we're doing a charity showing for the Dandelion Foundation that night. And he had his fight experience, so he looked like a fighter. So
when I saw him on there, I was like, he definitely has had something going.
Yeah, so it was a lot of things kind of fell into place, and there's other things too, which I'm not going to get into. But
well, sure, you don't want to spill the whole can of worms.
Yeah, I don't want to spill the whole can of worms.
Exactly.
But yeah, he did. Sean Hurdle did a great job on the movie as well. He really kind of dedicated himself to the part, and he was able to come up here and do some work, and that was absolutely great of him. So I'm really looking forward to be able to show him the at least part of the project. And showing that we're going to up Great Falls is going to be a preview of what's going on, because we're going to be doing some major editing after that. I'm using Great Falls as kind of a gauge into what's going on in terms of the movie. If there's anything I need to tweak in terms of the movie, in terms of plot line, etc. So they're kind of a test audience to me.
Right, kind of the focus group type.
Yeah, exactly.
Thing,
Yeah,
sure.
And it's the best of both worlds, and I don't think a lot of indie films do that. And it was a really great opportunity to be able to do so.
Sure. How far into post production are you? Do you think you're about 80, 90%?
I'm about 80, 85%. We need to go. I need to give the film over to my other editor, who's going to tweak it a lot more in terms of the sound and the color and etc. Mm-hmm. We just submitted to Slam Dance, so we have a rough copy over at Slam Dance right now. So fingers crossed we get in there. It's going to be a tough competition. That's one of the best indie film festivals I think in the country, and I really just wanted to do it there. I went there last year and I had a hell of a great time. Mm-hmm. Being over there at that festival, so I'm really hoping that we end up getting into Slam Dance. But there's a couple other festivals that are on the way. Artemis Film Festival, which is very interesting. They've already pretty much greenlit that we're gonna be a part of their festival. The Artemis Film Festival really dedicates itself towards women's action movies, and where women are prominent in terms of the hero roles, and so they're really interested in this project, and they really are looking forward to this. So
okay, thus far, with just the sheer scope. Now, granted, it's not big time blockbuster Hollywood. It's a small independent film, but as with any type of creative project, there's always your little bit of troubles, hang-ups. You rip your damn hair out. Or what's been the worst? What's been the worst so far for you?
That actor dropping out last minute.
I wouldn't know anything about people dropping out at the last minute.
Yeah, exactly. Well, here's the situation. I had contacted him that week. I said, "Listen, we're doing the filming. I mean," and he was fighting on the card that night. I said, "Is it going to be okay for you to go ahead and film and be a part of that?" And he said yes. And then he never showed up. So I had my actors waiting, and then I had to kind of shoot around it in order to kind of get that situation taken care of. So, but with a lot of the problems with these projects, I've always had a plan B because I've always been worried that something might happen. Mm-hmm. So a lot of times there's a plan B and plan B ended up working. There was hardly ever a time I had to go to a plan C, but that ended up working. Actually, I think if I remember correctly, he was actually the second actor to drop out of that part. There was another guy that did it, but he decided, I'm going to go to LA, so I'm not going to be able to make it. So I went to this other guy who was a fighter, and then he bailed on me. So and I knew Charmaine wouldn't bail on me, and it ended up being kind of a blessing because Charmaine's a female, and that's something that we don't see very much in the films anyway. We don't see a female coach, so that's kind of ended up
because actors are so reliable; they're not flighty at all.
And here's the thing, the actors tended to be, but the actresses did not. So
right. So do you have a website or anything for people to check out? Over
on Facebook, if you go to 4 months until fight day on Facebook, you'll be able to find information there. Also, go to Flare Dog Productions on Facebook, and you'll be able to see what's going on with our productions as the time being right now. So, okay. Those are the two places to go.
Is there any place for like when you submit to the festivals? Is there any place online for people to be able to vote for your film or?
Not that I know of. I mean, obviously, all the voting is going to happen at the festival site or whatever. Right now, it's being adjudicated. They're going to have screeners that watch it, and then they're going to say yay or nay. But right now, I mean, it was kind of an interesting process just to submit the film. I submitted it online. A lot of the information I had was really accessible because I had already did a Indiegogo campaign before it. And a lot of that information really easily translated over to what I did with the press kit that they asked for. And that's another thing too, is that I found out. A lot of Indiegogo campaigns, they'll do little videos that beg for money. They'll say, this is what work is going to happen, blah blah blah. I physically did a teaser trailer before I started my Indiegogo campaign. And I kind of wanted to get my ducks in a row, and that way it kind of seemed it tells the people that yes, this is going to happen, no matter what happens. But I think that's a lot of people have that little scared little thing about what happens if they raise the money and they don't do the project. So I wanted to make sure everybody saw that this project is already underway. I need the money to help finish it. So that was the kind of the thing. So I kind of took a different approach that way too. And I hope that more Indiegogo people do that way too. I think it's a better way of going about it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, just it lessens the risk for people wanting to donate money.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, it gets them motivated. It gets them fired up that this is going on too. So
very cool. Well, I'm certainly hoping that as production winds down and we have set dates and all that type of stuff, you definitely keep us posted so we can let the fine folks out here post it and definitely want to check out the movie when it comes out. Yeah,
we'll be doing a showing here in Helena. I'm not exactly sure if it'll be December or January, but we're kind of looking for a date right now. We're going to do it in November, but Illinois is booked in November, so we couldn't do it then. I have to talk to my actress Kate, who's going to be there, a part of the premiere, when she is going to be in town. If she's going to be in town for Christmas, we might do it right before Christmas, or if she's not going to be, maybe we'll do it in January. We'll see.
And we can wait for all those people to say, who is doing that sexy voice of that fight commentator? Holy cow, that's a talent right there.
Yeah, that's what they're going to be saying.
It worked. Like I said, it worked beautifully. Your commentary worked beautifully. Obviously, I had to cut a couple of lines, but that was just due to time. But it ended up working absolutely beautifully in the scene. And if I get a chance, I'll definitely have to show it to you. But it ended up working out very, very
Oh yeah,
nice.
No, like I said, Keith, let me know when the big showing will be here in town. I'll definitely do.
Yeah, I can definitely tell you it's going to be over at the Myrna. I just don't know when yet, so I'll let you guys know.
All right, well, kids, 4 months until fight day. When it comes out, check it out. Once again, director, writer, man of all trades, master of all of them, Marq Piocos. Again, Mark, thank you for stopping in, buddy.
Yeah, thanks a lot, guys.
All right, and we will go ahead with that. We will take a break. Coming up next, a fantastically corrupt, shady oak tree sumbitch